Well, good day, everyone. It's noon here in London, and we're delighted to be starting a fantastic program on the Belt Road Initiative, particularly looking at the first quarter of 2020 progress and funding with a lot of two-way road myths busted. And our special star here today is Henry Tillman. Just before we get going, a few items. I'm Michael Mainelli. I'm the executive chairman of Zien Group, which runs the Financial Services Club and a number of other online communities. As ever, everything's available online on our websites. I'm delighted as well to thank the numerous sponsors we have for the Financial Services Club from all over the world. And here's a list of them ranging from platinum down to bronze. So thanks to all of you. Again, full credits given on the website. Today's agenda is fairly straightforward. After I finish this introduction, Henry is going to be chatting for approximately 20 minutes. He's got a lot of material and ground to cover, and so I might not fall hard and fast on a 12:30 close. I might point out to all of you that we do welcome questions, and you just simply need to type any questions you'd like into the system. I will try and field some of them to Henry and consolidate where appropriate. But Henry and I will have the opportunity to get back to each and every one of you because your questions will be recorded against your email, and so we will be able to come back to you properly. This session is being recorded and therefore will be available on the FS Club website in approximately 24 hours if you wish to send or share with friends. So I think that sort of covers the basics of things. And today, one of the things I'm delighted is that Henry has become bit of a friend over the couple of years since I've known him. And last year, on the 1st of May, we ran an event called Belt Road Bridge. What were the bridges between China and the rest of the world being forged for Belt? Henry gave a fantastic presentation, very insightful then, and I'm delighted that a year on he's come to give a new presentation, particularly in light of things like coronavirus. So, Henry, I'll hand over to you from here, and we'll get cracking.
Thank you very much. Just some entry remarks to get started here. First of all, thanks everyone for their time in advance for attending today, because you're all busy. It's very difficult doing business in this environment. So first of all, a big thank you for carving out some time. The second is this involves the speakers that have signed up for this, the attendees that are signing up for this, have multiple continents. There are multiple levels of knowledge, whether it's universities, whether it's large corporates, whether it's think tanks, governments, etc. So we're trying to address all those parties in this short little document. And finally, before going any further, happy birthday to the Queen. Is 94 years old today, so let's put it all in perspective. So with that, let's move along to next page, please, Michael. This is the official OBOR pre-launch phase. You all remember this is One Belt, One Road. This is the official document from Tsinghua University. I show this to show what it looked like when it started. As we go through this presentation, you'll see how it's changed dramatically in the last 6+ years. Before changing the page, I didn't put over the top of this the next of the Silk Roads. This is One Belt, One Road. The second of those Silk Roads is the Polar Silk Road, which some of you have already heard me speak to, both in Shanghai last year and Reykjavik last October. We then move into, if you will, corridors. Here are the 6 corridors. And what this document is about is showing you how these are going to evolve logistically. And so we spend more time on not just the concept, but actually how it's working. Again, back to let's finish the second Silk Road. That second Silk Road is changing the world geopolitically. I show some of that bit in a few slides down the road, but it's being driven by liquid natural gas and the effects on oil prices, which all of you are seeing effects of in the markets today. So next slide, please, Michael. Thank you. It would be excellent. Now, those of you that don't know the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, it's something you really should spend some time getting to know. It represents Central Asia. I think we have our good friend from Tajikistan on the line today. I think we have some Indian friends on the line today as well. And these countries work, and unlike the circus we saw in Montreal 2 years ago with the G7, this group of countries is beginning to work a lot more closely together, reining in, if you will, Afghanistan to be much more part of this. I'd like you to focus too many words on the page. If you could focus on the box at the bottom, please, which basically says, even though India has not signed up for the Belt and Road, they've agreed to participate on digitalization of all these. So at some point down the road, in the not too distant future, all routes, which we'll talk about a bit later, from China into Europe will be digitized. That's rail routes, that's lorries, that's automobiles, that's the whole ports, it's the whole lot. All that will be digitized and, in my opinion, blockchained, and in my opinion, moving towards a digital RMB. So again, the vital piece of this thing is how do you move from China into Southeast Asia and then link into Central Asia, which has been the focus of Q1 this year operationally. Next page, please. Sorry, Michael. Can you one more page, please? Thank you. But before we go into Q1 this year, let's talk about Q4 last year, because some pretty major things happened in Q4 last year, primarily between China and India. If you back it up, Michael, sorry, it was the prior page. Thank you. Sorry, if you go back one page, please. Thank you. We think this will be a future economic corridor. You saw the 6 corridors before, but we think the Indian, Nepal, China corridor will soon also be a corridor. But on this page, I only want to point out 2 different things. One is the second bullet point on the left, where it's been a criticism for a long time that China has not been permitting Indians pharmaceutical expertise and IT expertise to compete into China. And as of October last year, President Xi signed a deal with India and Modi to permit that to happen. You can imagine, therefore, on that basis, how the flows of technology flows from China into India have gone up substantially. So not on this piece of paper, but in 2018, flows between China and India were only 1.8% of all outbound activity. In Q4 last year, it was 5.8%, and it's already 7% of the activity this year. So that's how India is taking more and more percentage of China outbound investment, number one on this page. Number two, as I talked about geopolitical, India has become a very, very important component to LNG and to Russia and to the whole China, Russia, Korea, what we call East Asian Economic Integration, which I think you'll find on our website. But fundamentally, this will shift the flow of the use of LNG to the countries producing it, i.e. Russia, and countries using it. So India moving into that direction has been very important. I mentioned before turning the page, previously the importance of the Silk Road, the Polar Silk Road, and the new energy before on LNG. This page I just showed you, which I don't know what happened. Sorry, can you go back to it, please, Michael? Sorry. You see hydrogen. So this is the Nepal. Once India and China has decided to open things up, Nepal has the possibility of producing 43,000 incremental megawatts of power, and as much as 84,000. That's pre-ice melt. So the combination of India, Nepal, and China opens up another corridor, if you will, over time, but not quite yet. But just to show you the possibility. Now, next page, please. If you can get next page, please. So, thank you. So we no, back it up, please. Sorry, I don't know what's happening. I can't control this document here.
Henry,
It needs the previous document, the previous page. Sorry.
okay.
Thank you. India, Nepal. So on this page, I only want to focus on a couple of points. One is the bottom point, which links a highly protected part of India through Nepal into Western China. There are some discussions of large SEZs being built there. So again, linking India through Nepal into China. If you then go to one bullet point up, There was going to be done through a massive rail project of 8 billion, and during the last couple of years, with so much criticism of small countries like Nepal, you will see that the third bullet point down, they've only agreed to 70-kilometer extension. So it's going to be done gradually rather than putting this kind of debt on Nepal's balance sheet. Yes, and again, in the first bullet point, you'll see President Xi was the first president to visit Nepal in 20 years. So again, linkage, India, Nepal, China, west part of China. Now, next page, please. This is the BCIM Economic Corridor page, please. Thank you. So this was the first of the corridors of the 6 corridors launched. It was launched 2 months after the original October 13 date. However, it dates back to 1999, the discussions they had. And what you'll see is a series of routes from Kunming through Myanmar, through Bangladesh, and through India into Kolkata. Again, I think this we just talked about before, the top of India working through Nepal into China, and the bottom of India. So again, as India has not signed the BRI, you'll still see important links through India with the BRI. And again, the ultimate link here, because we have to turn the page, is linking Kunming, the west of China, all through Myanmar into Bangladesh. Highlight on Bangladesh is that China was slow to come in because of the long-term relationship with Japan. They had to earn their way into 2 prior deals, Padma Bridge and the Pirate Seaport, which is extremely difficult. They have been able to tick those boxes, and so they've now moved on into, if you will, other areas of cooperation in terms of an economic zone, which has a lot of work to still do on it before it gets truly functional. But the near-term win here for China is 5G. Huawei has had a long-term relationship in Bangladesh. Bangladesh has a very young population. In my opinion, they want to leap from, if you will, 2G, 3G into 5G and begin, if you will, a digital economy driven just like you saw from China. So I think that's China's play. It's not an infrastructure play. It's not a Belt and Road infrastructure play, but it's moved on, if you will, into digital economy. Michael, next slide. Myanmar. CMEC is the Chinese Myanmar Economic Corridor. It's direct between China and Myanmar. Years ago, as I mentioned before, as you saw the point, in 2011, there was a blockage, and that has taken 10 years, if you will, to work to build a deeper collaboration. There are a series of infrastructure projects that are continuing, and again, this is now moving relatively quickly. There's 7 or 8 of these that are very sizable. There'll be a tremendous amount of cost saves, both by using the port there, by using the port in Bangladesh, instead of not going through KL, Singapore, or Southeast Asia. Next slide, please. Thank you. This is the link between the Belt and the Road. You'll see it links from Singapore into Western China, and 8 provinces of Western China. You see the name of it there, but it's the first link. It was tried for 3 years before it was launched in 2019. Of those 3 years, there was 22 billion imported programs, if you will, trade with China and Singapore. 15 billion of that was driven by Singaporean banks. So again, like China would do, it waits 3 years. If it works, they add to it. But it again is a direct link, if you will, from Western China into Southeast Asia. Next slide, please. Right. The key on this point is the very bottom, if you will. This is actually a link, therefore, into Central Asia and the EU. Links to China railways from Western Chinese cities south into Southeast Asia. And I'll show you that on the next slide, please. This is the China-European rail freight map. The green is the Russian rail. The red in the middle is the land bridge discussed, built in, if you will, 2016, 2017. The southern route is no high-speed rail yet till you get to Turkey, then Turkey, Greece, and you see there's an issue still of building a high-speed rail to the Central Eastern Europe. On this, however, though, to see usage, all these at the time, and you can see the most important piece will be Iran high-speed rail, but that is on hold for quite some time for obvious reasons. In 2011, there were 11 crossings on this route, 11. In Q1 this year, there were 1,941 trips on this route, up 20% year-over-year over last year. And in March alone, there were 809 trips in 1 month. Remember, 11 in 2011, 809 in 1 month this last March. So anybody who says this isn't working, those are the numbers. There's so much more to talk about on this page. We're short of time. Next page, please. Now, the last 2 days, I've been listening to the New York Times hammer away on saying China's rerouting the Mekong Delta. Maybe yes, maybe no, according to U.S. engineers. But the fact of the matter is, this is the fifth year they've met. All 5 foreign ministers have signed this cooperation. If you see, it's about water resources and agricultural communication, and it definitely links into what I just showed you in the land-sea corridor in the last page. Again, linkages, operational linkages, not big infrastructure projects, is China's focus. Next page, please. Now the next thing we hear is about Laos. So CLEC is another sub-corridor. As you see in there, if you look, that everyone says that the rail line's too slow, it's not working. The answer is, it's, I'm sorry, could you go back 1 page, Michael, to CLEC? Thank you. So if you, earlier this year, President Xi met in Laos. The last 3 arrows are the most important. This rail line, the biggest tunnel, was completed in March 15th of this year. In the 414 kilometers of rail line, 198 of those are tunnels. This is a very complex tunnel. The last major tunnel built 15th of March. 27th of March, they started laying track. They laid 2 kilometers per day. So at this rate, it's 7 months ahead of schedule for next year. Again, whoever says whatever about Laotian Rail in every press, these are the numbers, these are the facts. Next page, please. Government loans. So this page shows you basically things are drying up relative to policy bank loans because the Belt and Road's moving on from Belt and Road policy loans. So, and a highlight, the CDB will put up $3 billion of capital to Wuhan to fund those hospitals and Hubei SMEs. They've come down with policies. What policies have been Biden's? People will come back to me saying what's happening with roads, loans to Belt roads. You see very clearly, MOFCOM, CDB purposely say, here's what we're doing: lower cost loans, extending maturities, lowering interest rates to deal with this. And then also, if you will, to lend money like our friends at EBRD do to prompt, if you will, local banks to help fund these regional growth opportunities, like in Turkey, for example. Next page, please. Thank you. This basically shows, I'm sorry, if you go back to the page 16, please, Michael. Sorry. That's it, correct. Thank you. On this page, it's very simply, the number of policy loans has continued to decline. You see the second bullet point. It was 5.5 billion in Q4, 1.4 in Q1. AIB loans went from 12 to 2. NBD loans went from 8 to 1. All these are declining, and we keep been keeping loans under discussion, which is now 45 billion. That looks like a big number. We didn't put this in the document, but let me give you just a quick highlights how fast this is moving. Of that 45 billion, 5 billion is MOU to Turkey, 10 billion to Philippines airport, 3 billion to Russian LNG, which is all on course. So that's 18 billion of it on course. 17 billion is an ask from Nigeria, and the remaining 8 billion China's already said no to, which are loans relative to cross Africa rail. So whatever you hear about Belt and Road not being funded, those are the facts. There's no interest in building much more infrastructure. They're very focused on these projects I just told you about. In particular, Laotian Rail, Indonesian Rail, which is also on course for 2021. There is an issue from the rail from Mombasa, which you all know about, but that issue is related to lack of industrial SEZ. It's not related to tourist usage. Next. So again, bottom point, they're moving from loans, if you will, BRI loans for G2G into Digital Silk Road, SEZ and Health Silk Road. But here's just a picture of where those loans are for the quarter. Again, consistent what you've seen on the Belt and Road Plan. I might just highlight a couple of more things. One, Oman we've talked about before. Oman is transformed its economy from, in the process of reforming its economy from oil into a super, if you will, regional logistics play. Côte d'Ivoire is at the west coast of Africa, is looking at major ports, again, which would be probably the fourth or fifth Silk Road. And of course, developments in Uganda and Rwanda. And just to be clear on Rwanda, they're not the only ones there. So you see, if you will, India and China working together on roads to Rwanda. And there are some interesting, profitable hydro projects in Uganda to date. Next page, please. External capital raise. Thank you. This is to show people that say China doesn't have any money to finish these loans. And again, 45 billion outstanding. That's it. And you've already seen what they are. So in Q1, they've raised 11 billion of inbound, and the number is 7 billion outbound. So the net cash providers of inbound Q1. The Shenzhen markets were very good the quarter, number one in the world, 7.7 of equity. Selected disposals, these are just selected disposals of 5.2. So net, that's 25 billion of new equity, which you can leverage depending on companies up to 100 billion. This does not include cash flow in from international investment in Chinese equities or Chinese investment into bonds, which is a record 16 consecutive months of growth in the Chinese bond market. And also, I say 100 billion possible energy savings. That number is understated, but let's go with 100 billion with a couple of public sources. Next page, please. We love to follow China inbound, and we do because everyone complains so much, especially Western European countries, that, you know, it's only a one-way road, it's not a two-way road. Well, if you look at the numbers, I'm not going to go through all these with you, but the first three alone, 1, 2, 3, represented 6.5 billion of inbound capital to China in Q1 alone. Now, how does that matter? It matters because basically China's at a 135 FDI, and these are incremental to that 135 FDI already on these plays. And if you look across the others, you see 7 from Germany, 5 from the UK, 4 from France, 2 from Netherlands, 2 from Switzerland, Spain, Portugal, and even USA and Canada have had some wins about inbound investment into China. So again, China isn't opening up. China doesn't want to open up. Again, here are the facts. Next page, please. Which would be Chinese public markets. Thank you. Just to show you very quickly, the first bullet point, 10 billion of fresh equity raised in Q1. And that follows what was happening in Q4, which is another 20 billion of fresh equity raised, also in part not just in public markets, but also, if you will, in the Chinese SOE reforms. We talk about greed here, but there'll be a series of other partial IPOs or partial sales of Chinese SOEs. My number is 200 billion on that going forward. So again, China opening up of inbound investment. Next page, please. These are just a handful of disposals the quarter. These are real estate disposals, and that's 5 billion simply real estate disposals. That doesn't count all the other stuff from, if you will, bigger things from on buying or H&A. Next page, please. I want to finish with healthcare. China's gone from 15% of their outbound investment in Q4 to 22% of their investment in Q1 in healthcare. you see the places where they've made those investments. Some of these are quite important. The largest deal of the quarter is Alibaba buying a healthcare company in Hong Kong for over $1 billion. There have been some important investments in Germany. There were both Fosun and the USA government are quarreling over an investment or control of an investment by a German company called BioNTech over the possible antivirus for COVID-19. Another major play is the Japanese investing, a major Japanese investor in life sciences into China. So again, so much for the not one way, not two way. These are all inbound. There's 5 inbounds, several outbounds, and you can see many of these are, virtually all of these are minority stakes, and most of these are under $10 million. They're just simply to provide, if you will, growth capital for some of these companies. And contrary to popular belief, things are still getting done in the USA. Look at all on the California coast or Boston and Washington. Small plays, they don't control it. They're smart. They're part of a very small, if you will, investor base. Next page. These are Chinese stocks just to show you the growth and the acceleration from January through March of this year. You can expect more of that going forward the rest of the year. And I'm mindful of time. I want to say thank you on the next page. I owe a special thank you to a young man who helped us for the last couple of years in China, who led our Chinese team, Xiao Gang. And I just want to say thank you to him if he's still listening. And thank you so much for all of your time. I'm open to questions if you still have the time. Thank you, Michael.
Henry, that was fascinating. The wealth of knowledge that you've displayed is truly stunning, and also your recovery. And I myself am also stunned at the interest in this presentation, not least because over 2/3 of the people who were forced off the call came back. So thanks to our audience as well. I'm afraid, folks, in the time available, we will be unable to continue any further. But I have got a number of questions here from people like Douglas Andrews, Cameron, Doug McWilliams, and I will make sure that Henry and I respond to each and every one of you directly on that. Henry, thank you so much for your time. You've done a great job under trying circumstances. And if I may, I'll give you a virtual clap on behalf of the entire audience because it was a truly magnificent performance, and much appreciate your tolerance for the technology. And we will get back to you. And in fact, I might close with a comment here from Adrian Quayle. Great presentation, amazing detailed knowledge. Thank you very much, all. And we look to see you on some other ones, hopefully with fewer technical difficulties.
Can I make one more point, please? Please don't always listen to the press. This is about detailed knowledge of how this all webbed together. It's extraordinary, and no one pays attention to it, which actually makes me pretty happy. Be able to share with people that do want to have an interest. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and thanks to your team and everything that you've done. Bye then all.
Thank you very much. Cheers. Thank you.